Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee Chats with Claire. I'm super excited to introduce our second guest, Lisa Gao, who is a process development scientist at Genentech. She was born in China and immigrated to the US with her family when she was 10. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Lisa.
Thank you for inviting me, Claire. I'm delighted to be here.
Great. Let's jump right in. I'm really curious about this. Please tell me about what you do as a process development scientist at Genentech.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what process development is. First, in biotechnology and also in other fields of science, a process is defined as a set of steps that, if it's followed correctly, will reliably produce a product with expected outcome, such as a medicine for treating patients. A company that makes biologics, which are a class of medication that are produced from living organisms, like proteins, for instance, must follow a process in order to convert raw materials into a medicine. So process development involves characterization of impurities and then identifying the critical process parameters and setting limits for those impurities. And the primary focus of process development is to understand the fate of the impurities and to establish boundaries for their control, with the goal of ensuring final product quality.
Wow.
Specifically, process development study provides understanding of the fate of the starting material impurities and generating information that's needed for setting those limits for the impurities for the starting material as well as for the final product. So in short, a process development scientist uses engineering principles and life science theories to design, implement, and manufacture medicines while remaining compliant with strict regulatory policies.
Wow, that's really advanced. That's awesome. Can you
Yeah.
tell me about, can you walk me through a typical day of what you do at work?
Yeah, sure. So I've been at Genentech for nearly 20 years, and so I have worked from designing and executing experiments at lab scale to authoring content for regulatory submission. And in my current role, I am part of a team that is responsible for doing risk assessment for a set of studies for late-stage projects. And we use scientific and process development knowledge to perform these assessments. So we work with cross-functional teams in analytical development, manufacturing, quality, and regulatory. And a typical week for me involves meeting with my team and discussing challenges that came up during the week, as we each work on our deliverables.
Wow. Tell me more about, you've worked so long at Genentech. Are the people that you work with, do they often also stay as long as you do?
There are quite a few people who worked at Genentech as long as I have, surprisingly. But recently, we have more people who are joining us because, people do leave and explore other companies. But
Right.
mostly, we do have a lot of people like myself who are old timers in our department.
Have you ever considered switching companies, or do you really enjoy your time at Genentech?
I do enjoy my time at Genentech, and I have not thought about switching companies because I really enjoy working with the people that's in my department. And so I think that's what makes it really rewarding. It's working with smart people and who are like really passionate at what they
Right.
do.
Speaking of rewarding, can you tell me a really rewarding or successful experience or positive outcome that resulted from your work?
Yeah, sure. I think there are many, but think the one that stands out most is the gaining FDA approval for a product that I was a member of a team that worked on, that started from designing process at lab scale to manufacturing and all the way through regulatory submission. And so the product
Mm-hmm.
was targeted for cancer treatment that was designed to attack specific cancer cells. And the amazing thing is, typically there's less than 12% of the potential medicine that's entering into clinical trials, meaning the
Right.
human testing, are ultimately approved as a new medicine. So, and it typically takes 10 years from drug discovery to bringing the medicine to patients. So as you can see, that was an amazing milestone.
Yeah, that's a lot of perseverance too. I can't imagine working on one of these projects for 10 years, but that's so impactful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, I really felt like a proud parent seeing a child growing up and becoming an adult and making like a positive impact on the world. So that
Yeah,
was very rewarding.
that's awesome. Let's backtrack a little bit. Where'd you go for high school, and when did you know that you would be going into to healthcare medicine?
So I attended a Catholic high school in St. Louis, Missouri. I didn't know that I was going into healthcare when I was in high school.
Mhm.
I knew I wanted to do science after attending an ecology camp that was recommended by my science teacher. In this nature camp, there were about a dozen students from different high schools in the St. Louis area. We learned methods to identify living organisms, from tadpoles to weeds. We recorded in our notebook field observations and working in groups, identify organisms that we saw. I really loved the whole experience. Essentially, that was my first formal introduction into scientific approach to investigate the natural world. And it was then that I knew I wanted to be a scientist.
Wait, that sounds fun too. That's
It
such a
was
yeah.
fun.
Yeah. How about in college? What did you major? And were there any classes that inspired you to go into healthcare?
Yes, I received a Bachelor of Arts in Biology and then a Master of Science in Biological Sciences. In college, I really enjoyed my biology and biochemistry classes, and I wanted exposure really early on to do research in college, so I signed up for a work study program as a lab assistant in a plant biology lab that studied plant pathology. And it was really cool because I got to work with grad students and postdocs. And that's really where I learned like many lab skills.
That's fascinating. Can you tell me more about plant pathology? What exactly is
Yeah, pathology, specifically in the lab that where I worked, they study signaling from a bacteria and the host, which is a plant, and really to understand what the mechanism at a molecular level that cause like pathology in
that?
plants.
And you also say you took biochemistry. I'm taking bio right now, and I took chemistry last year, but I'm wondering how those intersect, I guess. What exactly did you guys learn in that course?
Yeah, I think biochemistry is really relating to more like life, the
Mm.
different processes in like life related chemistry versus like organic chemistry.
Mhm.
So I
I
think
mean,
that's like the main difference.
got it. Got it. And after college, what was graduate school like for you? And were there some really challenging or rewarding moments?
Yeah, graduate school was really a direct experience from like a direct result from my experience working in lab in the college because I really enjoyed that experience. And so I wanted to explore independent research. So graduate school was like the very natural next step for me. And overall, like it was a very positive experience because that's like the first time that I really gained independent research. And I had a really great advisor during my grad school. And I think that really positive experience kept me going and really reaffirmed that I really was interested and really had a great time doing research.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I feel like for me, my teachers are so important about like towards whether I enjoy the subject or not. So that's really awesome that you had that.
Totally, yes, totally agree with that.
And you also mentioned that you did independent research projects. Do you recall like one of the ones that were your favorite?
So in college, what I looked at was the biochemical analysis of a gene family that's in a plant, which is called Arabidopsis. That was used as like a model organism for plant studies. And so that's what I study.
That's fascinating. That's really cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
that's where I learned a lot of the tools for like engineering, like bioengineering.
Yeah, that's what I love about science too. I feel like you learn so many things and you could actually apply it to real life and stuff. So that's awesome.
Exactly. The tool is really a tool that allows you to go into many areas of research. So that I think was a very valuable experience for me.
That's amazing. I also want to ask you for some advice. What advice would you give to someone like me in high school who's interested in pursuing a career in healthcare?
Well, first, I think a career in healthcare could be very fulfilling and rewarding because you're making a difference in a patient's life. And there are many paths getting there. There's not like a set way. Like myself, I sort of fell into it because I like doing research. And I really started doing plant research and it ended up being in healthcare. So it's a huge field. For example, in biotech, people come from wide range of skills and expertise, including fields in communications, data analytics, finance, engineering, I think
Right.
business, law, and more. And really, scientists like myself are about 10% of the employees at Genentech. So there are various ways of getting there. And I think internship would probably be a really good option to explore the different fields in healthcare. So seek those out if they're available to you.
I'm actually really curious. So you did study plants for a long time. Did you have a particular moment where you decided that you would actually pursue healthcare or go into Genentech?
I think it's really at the time, like when I started at grad school, I wasn't aware of like a direct way of applying plant biology and how that would be in career wise.
Mm.
It was naturally because I really like doing research in the lab, and healthcare was there were many options more so than in plant biology. And so I really enjoy seeing that there's a direct impact to patients. And so I think that's really draw me to healthcare.
That's amazing. And are there any books or other resources that you would recommend to a high schooler?
Um, I think this kind of maybe similar to the first question where you ask what advice. I don't have a certain book that I recommend, but I think one thing that I recommend would be like shadow programs, if there are some. Like seek opportunities to shadow a nurse, a doctor, or a scientist in a biopharmaceutical company. And you get to see what they do and ask questions and really gain insights into the field firsthand. So
Mhm.
that would be my recommendation.
No, I totally agree. I think fully immersing yourself in experiencing that if you enjoy it or not, and you can also
E-
learn from it. That's really important.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So to wrap up the conversation, I really truly want to thank you, Lisa, so much for your time and your amazing insights. And the work that you do is truly, truly impactful. So I really appreciate you being my second guest on the podcast.
Well, Claire, thank you for the opportunity to share my career journey with you and your audience.
Yes, and yes, to our audience, thank you for joining us on another episode of Coffee Chats with Claire. See you all soon.
Bye.